83-year-old Venetian Cristiano Gasparetto has experienced numerous floods in his lifetime. But the kind of prolonged flood his hometown is currently enduring is a whole different league. Together with other locals, Cristiano has started protesting on a nearby square against what they call the real reasons of the disaster.
This is a man-made catastrophe. We can't blame bad weather or strong winds for this. This flood is the result of our own structural interventions over the past decades.
Cristiano has dedicated his life to the preservation of Venice, but it's a losing battle. This bookshop, for example, got flooded, and now everything is ruined. This is Cristiano's latest construction site. When it flooded, the water rose to almost half a meter. Now he will have to move the power sockets further up the walls in case of a similar disaster. The architect knows only too well what damage flooding causes to historical buildings, like this former medieval tower.
The salt water gets into the walls and marble. The salt crystallizes, expands in volume, and bursts the building materials. And that's why we see red powder along brick walls after every flood.
The flood has spared nothing. The city's iconic St. Mark's Square has been inundated for days. Likewise, St. Mark's Basilica, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its precious floor mosaics covered in salt water. Likewise, the crypt, which had just been restored at great costs. But some locals are convinced the city could have been better prepared for floods like these. Giuseppe Conte, a retired urban development professor, accuses politicians and public administrators of systematically ruining Venice by taking wrong decisions.
This is disheartening. For the past 50 years, nothing has been done to preserve Venice. There was lots of talk and plenty of money spent, but nothing has changed.
All his life, Mr. Cristiano has called for more research into the Venetian Lagoon, a unique ecosystem that for centuries had been able to absorb and cope with floods. But in recent decades, this ecosystem has shrunk by a third due to the construction of industrial sites, port facilities, and artificial islands. Water flowing in from the Adriatic Sea now builds up in the lagoon and streams into Venice much quicker because waterways have been deepened so that the huge cruise ships can enter the city. For almost 20 years, the city has been working on mobile barriers to protect Venice. Almost 7 billion euros were spent on the project, which still hasn't been completed. The city therefore has no functioning flood protection, something that makes locals like Cristiano Gasparetto livid.
More than €1 billion in bribes were paid to get the project through, because it is apparently so misguided that all the authorities who had to approve it had to be paid off.
He says the rise of global sea levels makes flooding increasingly likely. The system of mobile barriers would, provided it ever became operational, cut off the Venetian Lagoon from the sea for months.
But with the barriers in place, no more water would flow out of the lagoon. 81 municipalities and the agricultural sector all pump their wastewater into it. Some of it is chemically contaminated and would collect there.
And that would pose a huge environmental problem for the city, a grim prospect. So for now, volunteers are working hard to protect the city's historic sites, like here at the Church of the Carmini, because it's only a matter of time until the next flood.